My sister destroyed my career with fake hate accounts. 9 years later, my fiancé invited her to our wedding behind my back. But what I did when I found out, I left everyone speechless and changed my life forever. I'm 31 years old. I work in digital marketing for a pretty decent company here in Austin, and basically my wedding fell apart about 3 months ago for a reason that I still struggle to process. The thing is, my fiancé, well, my ex-fiancé now, invited my sister to our wedding without telling me anything. And when I say that my sister is the last person on the planet that I would want to see at any important event in my life, I'm not exaggerating even a little bit. I guess I have to explain this whole story from the beginning for it to make sense. Because the thing with my sister Stephanie goes back years, literally since we were kids. Stephanie is 28 years old, so 3 years younger than me. And for as long as I can remember, she's been the most competitive and jealous person I've ever known in my life. I'm not talking about that typical sibling rivalry where you fight over the TV remote or who sits in the front seat of the car. No, this was another level completely. Every time I achieved something, whatever it was, she had to ruin it somehow or make it about herself. When I won the spelling bee in 5th grade, she threw my trophy in the trash and told my parents it was an accident. When I got accepted to the debate team in high school, she started spreading rumors that I had cheated on the entrance exam. It was exhausting, honestly, and my parents always minimized it with that whole, "that's just how siblings are," or "Stephanie just wants your attention" thing. But I knew it was something deeper, something more toxic. Things reached their peak when I graduated from college. I was like 22 years old, and I got a job offer at a super prestigious marketing firm in Dallas. It was my dream job, like the kind of position that only gets offered to a handful of graduates each year. And I was euphoric. I had worked my ass off for 4 years to get there. I had done unpaid internships during summers. I had gotten excellent grades, everything. My parents were proud. My friends congratulated me. And for the first time, I felt like I was achieving something really big on my own. Stephanie, of course, had just finished her first year of college at that time and was studying something related to business too. I think administration or something like that. 1 week after I accepted the offer, I got a call from the HR department at the firm. The woman on the phone sounded uncomfortable, with that tone of voice they use when they have to give you bad news but are trying to be professional about it. She told me they needed to talk to me about some concerning content they had found on social media associated with my name. I had no idea what she was talking about because I was super careful with my social media. Like I didn't even post party photos or anything controversial. They sent me screenshots, and I almost had a heart attack right there. Someone had created fake Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram accounts with my name, using photos of me that I had uploaded to my personal profiles and had been posting horrible content for weeks, basically since I announced I had gotten the job. I'm talking about racist, sexist, homophobic posts, really disgusting stuff that I would never say or think. The accounts had enough information about me to seem legitimate. They included details about my university, my city, even some references to projects I had worked on. The marketing firm told me that although they understood it probably wasn't me, they couldn't risk hiring someone associated with that kind of controversy, especially because they worked with clients from all kinds of industries and demographics. The offer was officially withdrawn 2 days later. I was devastated, literally devastated. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I spent hours trying to report the fake accounts and explain to anyone who would listen that it wasn't me. My parents were confused and worried. My friends didn't know what to say. I hired a lawyer to see if I could do something legally. But he told me that without knowing who had created the accounts, it was basically impossible to proceed, and that the cost of investigating would probably be astronomical with no guarantee of results. It was one of the darkest periods of my life, no exaggeration. And then, like 3 weeks after all this exploded, Stephanie came to visit me at my apartment. I was still living in Austin at that time. I had planned to move to Dallas for the job I no longer had, and I was basically depressed on my couch trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life. She knocked on the door, came in, and had this weird expression on her face, like nervous but also defiant at the same time. She sat across from me and said, "I need to tell you something." What she told me in the next 10 minutes basically confirmed what part of me already suspected but didn't want to believe. She had created the accounts. She had posted all that horrible content, She had sabotaged my job, my reputation, my future, everything. When I asked her why, literally, with tears falling down my face because I couldn't believe my own sister had done something like this to me, she said something I'll never forget. She said, "You always get everything you want, Derek. Everything always works out for you. While I have to work twice as hard for anyone to notice me, it's not fair, and I guess I wanted you to feel what it feels like to lose something important." I sat there, completely in shock, trying to process that my sister, the person I had grown up with, who I had shared a house with for 18 years, hated me enough to destroy my career before it even started. I yelled at her. Obviously. I told her she was a horrible person, that she was sick, that she needed help. She started crying and said she was sorry, that she didn't think things would go that far, but the truth is, I didn't want to hear anymore. I told her to get out of my apartment and to never talk to me again. She tried to. I apologize again, but I was already opening the door, literally pushing her out. That was the last time I talked to Stephanie for 9 years. I had to explain to my parents what happened, and although they said they were horrified and disappointed with Stephanie, they also tried to do that, "but she's your sister" thing, and family has to forgive each other. I made it very clear to them that I wasn't going to forgive what she did, that she had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed, and that if they wanted to have a relationship with her, that was their decision. But I was completely out. At first, they tried to organize family gatherings where we would both be there, but I simply wouldn't go or I'd leave when she showed up. Eventually, they understood I was serious and stopped trying, although I know they never really understood why I couldn't just get over it. I spent the next few months rebuilding my life, basically from scratch. I got a job at a smaller marketing agency here in Austin. It wasn't the same as the Dallas firm, but it was something, and little by little I built my reputation again. The fake accounts were eventually deleted after multiple reports, and over time most people forgot the whole thing, or at least stopped mentioning it. It was a long and painful process, but I survived. I met Erica like 4 years after all that. I was 26 and she was 24. A mutual friend introduced us at a bar. She was cute, funny, worked in human resources for a tech company, and seemed genuinely interested in me. We dated for a few months before making things official, and eventually I told her the whole story with Stephanie because I felt it was something she should know if we were going to have a serious relationship. Erica reacted with surprise and compassion, said she couldn't believe someone would do something like that, especially family, and that she completely understood why I had cut contact. It made me feel validated, like my feelings and my boundaries were reasonable, which after years of my parents telling me I was being too hard on Stephanie was a relief. We were together for 5 years. 5 pretty good years, honestly. We moved in together after the first year, adopted a cat we named Pickle, traveled, built a life. I proposed like a year and a half ago. It was at the beach during a weekend in Galveston. Nothing super elaborate, but romantic. She said yes. We cried, we hugged, the whole typical engagement thing. We started planning the wedding almost immediately. We had been talking about getting married for a while, so we were both ready and excited. Wedding planning went well at first. We found a venue we liked, hired a photographer, chose the menu, all those things you have to do. But then Erica started mentioning Stephanie. The first time was casual. We were reviewing the guest list and she asked if I was sure I didn't want to invite my sister. I reminded her of the whole story. We had literally just talked about this like 2 weeks before, and I told her no, definitely not. She nodded and said she just wanted to make sure that she understood, but she kept mentioning it. A week later, she asked if I had ever considered reconciliation, said she had been reading articles about family forgiveness and that sometimes people change. I explained again, like I was starting to get a little frustrated, that it wasn't about forgiveness or whether Stephanie had changed, it was about my boundaries and my mental health. That some things can't be repaired and don't have to be repaired. Erica said she understood, but that she just wanted me to consider all the options, that she didn't want me to regret anything later. This kept happening for months. Every few weeks, there would be some comment about Stephanie, about family, about second chances. It started wearing me down, honestly, because I felt like my boundaries weren't being respected. But I also told myself that Erica was just trying to help, that it came from a good place. Her parents were divorced, but both were going to be at the wedding. She had worked hard to maintain relationships with both sides of her family. So, I guess for her, the idea of not having a family member at such an important event was hard to understand. Then we got to like 3 months before the wedding. We were at my apartment one night. I was on my laptop answering work emails, and she was on the couch with her phone. Suddenly, she says, "Derek, I need to tell you something, and you're not going to like it." My stomach basically dropped to the floor because that's never a good conversation starter. I closed my laptop and turned toward her, and she had that expression you make when you know you did something wrong, but you're trying to justify it. She told me she had contacted Stephanie. Not only had she contacted her, she had been talking to her for months. Months. Since we started planning the wedding. And the worst part, the absolute worst part, was that she had sent her an invitation to the wedding without telling me anything. I was literally speechless for a moment. I couldn't process what I was hearing. I asked her how she had gotten Stephanie's contact, and she said she had asked my mom for the number. He had told her she wanted to surprise me with a reconciliation as a wedding gift or something like that. My mom, of course, happy to help with anything that could bring her children together, gave her all the information without asking me first. I tried to stay calm, I really did, but I could feel the rage growing in my chest. I asked her why. Why would she do something like this, when I had made it very clear, multiple times over years, that I didn't want any contact with Stephanie? Erica started with this whole explanation about how she thought it was best for me, that resentment was only hurting me, that Stephanie deserved a second chance, that family is important, blah blah blah. The whole speech she had been giving me in small doses for months, now all at once. I asked her what else they had talked about, what Stephanie had said. Erica got uncomfortable and admitted that at first the conversations had gone well. Stephanie had said she regretted what she did, that she had matured, that she wanted to make peace. But Erica also said that in the last call they had, Stephanie had made some comments about me that had made her question everything. When I pressed her to tell me what comments, she hesitated but eventually admitted that Stephanie had called me a loser who can't get over the past, and had said I was probably exaggerating what happened to get attention. That's when something in me just broke. Not only had Stephanie not changed at all, which didn't surprise me at all, but Erica had completely betrayed my trust, had gone behind my back, had basically conspired with the person who had caused me one of the biggest traumas of my life, all because she thought she knew better than me what I needed. I told her the wedding was off, just like that. She started crying, said I was being extreme, that we could fix it, that she had only wanted to help. I told her that helping would have been respecting my boundaries, respecting my decision, respecting my pain. That what she did wasn't helping. It was a betrayal. And that if she couldn't see that, then we had nothing more to talk about. She tried to touch me, hug me, but I pulled away. I told her I needed her to leave, to go to a friend's house or something, but that I couldn't be around her right then. She left crying, and I was left alone in the apartment feeling like my life had just exploded again. It was like I was back in that moment 9 years ago when I discovered what Stephanie had done. That same feeling of betrayal and devastation and wondering how someone who was supposed to love me could do something like this to me. I spent the next week in a kind of autopilot mode. I called the venue and canceled. We lost the deposit, but I didn't care. I canceled. The catering, the flowers, the band, everything. Every vendor asked me if I was sure, if there was any way to save the date, and I just said no, that it was final. I notified my family, my friends, all the guests. Some asked what happened, but I just said things hadn't worked out, that I preferred not to go into details. Stephanie sent me an email, like 2 days after Erica and I broke up. It was long, like 3 pages of text where she said she was sorry, that she had changed, that she wanted to be part of my life again, that she understood if I needed time, but that she hoped we could talk eventually. I read it once and deleted it without responding. I didn't owe her anything, not even a response. My parents, of course, tried to organize another one of their forced reconciliation attempts. They invited me to dinner at their house like a month after all this, said they just wanted to spend time with me, see how I was doing. When I arrived, Stephanie was sitting in the living room. I stood at the door, looked at my parents, and told them I couldn't believe they had done this. My dad started with his speech about how it had been enough time, that I needed to let go of the grudge, that Stephanie had come to apologize. I told him that if they wanted to have a relationship with Stephanie, that was their decision, but that I had made mine, and that if they couldn't respect that, then we would have a problem. I left without even taking off my jacket. The relationship with my parents is kind of tense now. I'm not going to lie. We still talk, but not as much as before, and I definitely don't go to their house if there's any possibility that Stephanie will be there. I made it clear to them that that's my line in the sand, and I'm not going to cross it, not for them, not for anyone. As for Erica, she tried to contact me several times in the weeks after we broke up. Text messages, calls, emails. I eventually responded to one of her messages and told her I needed her to stop contacting me, that what she had done had broken something in me that couldn't be fixed, and to please respect my decision to move forward without her. She stopped contacting me after that. The last 3 months have been weird, honestly. I took all of Erica's stuff out of the apartment. Well, the few things that remained, because she came to pick up most of it when I was at work. I redesigned the space a bit, made it more mine, less ours. Pickle the cat stayed with me, at least I have that. I've been focusing on work, which has been good. They gave me a promotion like a month ago that's keeping me busy and distracted. I went out with some friends last week. We went to a rooftop party here in Austin. There were a lot of people, music, the weather was incredible. I met a girl, Leah. She works in graphic design or something like that. We talked for like an hour. It was easy and light. No drama, no complicated history. She asked for my number and I gave it to her. I don't know if anything will happen there. I'm not in a hurry to get into another serious relationship, but it was nice to feel that possibility again, you know? That feeling that there's life after all this. I've been thinking a lot about boundaries lately, about how some people in your life just aren't going to respect them no matter how much you explain them. My sister didn't respect my success and my happiness, so she sabotaged it. My ex didn't respect my trauma and my boundaries, so she crossed them thinking she knew better. My parents don't respect my decision to protect myself, so they keep pushing for something that's never going to happen. And that's okay, I guess. I can't control what other people do. I can only control how I respond and what kind of people I allow in my life. The truth is, I feel more at peace now than I did 3 months ago, despite the fact that I lost my fiancée and basically distanced myself from my family. Because at least now I'm living on my own terms, respecting my own boundaries, not letting anyone tell me that my pain or my self-protection aren't valid. Leah texted me yesterday, asking if I wanted to get coffee this weekend. I said yes. It's a small step, but it feels like the right one.